Okay. You can hear me. Everyone can hear me okay? Good? Ish, at the back? Okay, cool. I'll talk up. So thank you for joining us. We're here for the next half an hour. We're going to be talking about building the restaurant of the future, but really with a focus on digital transformation. So originally it was going to be me talking to you about digital transformation, and given nobody wants that, I've brought some real operators, some real life operators with me to talk about what digital transformation means for their businesses. I'm going to let them introduce themselves to you right now.
Okay. Morning, folks. Can you hear me all right? Can you hear me now? Better? Worse? How about... I might just yell. I'm just going to yell. Hello, I'm Rosie. Nick, you might have to do all the talking for me.
So actually I'm going to present after all.
Sorry.
That's fine.
How about that? Okay. I'll wait until he turns it on. And again. How about now? Hey,
Yay.
There we go.
What a relief.
Everyone loves a prop. Hello, I'm Rosie Hill. I'm the head of e-commerce for Gales Bakery. For those of you that don't know Gales, we are a modern neighborhood craft bakery. So we're a premium brand. We do freshly baked croissant, amazing coffee throughout London, and very recently made our Manchester debut. I'm going to hand over to Paul.
Hello, everybody. I'm Paul. I'm the founder of I Am Donna, a small fledgling franchise from Yorkshire. We specialise in handcrafted German-style kebabs, and we're coming up to 7 years old now.
Amazing. So the reason we've got Paul and Rosie here today is because we really want to focus on two different types of brands. So Gales, who now have 110 sites, versus Paul, who has 4 sites. And they have a very different approach to digital transformation. So a good mix of story, but both incredibly interesting in their own right. So I'll start with Rosie. So Gales is a much-loved brand, and it's fair to say that the kind of digital adoption has happened fairly late in the brand journey. Could you kind of describe what's happened to date, and kind of what's worked well and what hasn't worked so well?
That's a very big question. So our first foray into e-commerce happened in about 2014 with the launch of our catering platform. But I think it kind of accelerated fairly dramatically first during the pandemic and then about 18 months ago, so kind of following on from that. The pandemic was when we first adopted Deliveroo as a partner, which was a bit of a landmark moment for Gales because no one really understood what role that would play for our customers and for our brand. There was a bit of a preconception that maybe there wouldn't be much demand for Gales, and the reality has really proven that wrong. And then about 18 months ago, we started partnering with Vita Mojo. We moved our click and collect and our corporate catering and delivery arm over to them. We've also used their aggregator hub to be able to go multi-aggregator, so onboarded Just Eat as a partner. We launched same-day click and collect in January for the first time this year. And we also partnered with a really wonderful courier aggregator service called Orchestro to enable us to do deliveries throughout the UK. So we'd kind of really gone for it in the last 18 months, and a big part of that is to do with some kind of personnel changes, really. I think our board were always really aware that digital was going to be a key component of our long-term strategy and our long-term growth, but no one really knew what that looked like. I'd had kind of a succession of really brilliant predecessors, but no one had stuck around for maybe longer than about 6-8 months, so it was a bit piecemeal when I came in. And us kind of coming to a place where we had a really long-term omnichannel strategy, where we know what we're working towards, we're really clear about what's the unique value add of any given channel for our customers, and we're starting to get more data, we understand what people want, what's the role we can play for them. So digital's been a really kind of key enabler since then. It's been a great source of growth. We've had a few nice record weeks back to back, so great start to the new financial year for us. But we're really aware that there's kind of so much more to come as we start to understand both our customers and our channels even better.
And on that journey, so what has worked well? So I know that you've done a lot of engagement across different stakeholders, and I also know that it's a very emotional subject, the Gales digital channels. So how have you worked across those stakeholders to get people aligned to understand what you're trying to achieve?
It's been a lot of work, to be honest. I think we've had to really do this top to bottom in our business. So we do a lot of engagement and education with our board, because whilst everyone was really aligned that digital was this great source of growth, they were really struggling to understand how that could fit in with our brand in a way that felt authentic and felt kind of true to the kind of company values. And it, to an extent, really felt kind of anathema to the principles of craft, because craft is all about slow, care, human attention. And there was kind of, that kind of preconception that digital just was the opposite of that. So a lot of time with our board to kind of show them what are the ways that technology can solve problems for our teams and solve problems for our customers, and really shifting that mindset away from, well, this is a thing that you just have to do as a big business because big businesses do it, to what is the way we can do this that is authentic to Gales, feels right for customers, feels right for scaling.
Okay.
So we've done a lot of engagement events, a lot with our teams, but ultimately the more we use tech to make people's lives easier, the happier they are with change.
And just on that point then, so what have you learned along the way in terms of persuading teams, Gales teams, to really adopt the technology, being an enabler rather than potentially a blocker?
Listening is the kind of key and obvious one. So we kind of had a bit of a history of launching products and then going, ta-da, job done, aren't we great? Instead of kind of going back to check in on the progress. What's the adoption been? What are the blockers? Is it education? Is it there is a problem with the tech itself? We talk about the three key blockers being kind of will, skill, hill. Which of those things are getting in the way of your teams understanding what this is designed to do, understanding how it can make life easier? And the more we kind of did that kind of constant drumbeat of education, I'm sure for all of you guys who are in this industry, you'll have had the same experience of high turnover of staff. So it's not enough to train people once and go, well, it's up and running. You have to have kind of this monthly refresher where you're constantly bringing everyone on that same journey.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you, Rosie. Paul, over to you. So I guess similar questions. If you could just kind of characterize the I Am Donna journey around digital adoption.
Yeah.
And then we can kind of come on to where you're at today with it all.
Okay, yeah. Following on from that conversation, I probably what was the main blocker in the business. I came from being a chef. I spent 20 years of my life being a chef to opening I Am Donna 7 years ago. I knew I Am Donna had to do something different. There's obviously 300,000 other kebab shops out there in the UK, and back there in 2016 there was no other competitor back then. So as soon as we knew we wanted to launch a modern, well-branded kebab shop, we had to find every way to push that different and to make it modern. Vita Mojo came to us in 2019. I think we were one of the earliest customers. Nick himself came up to do the original sales pitch. Like I say, being the chef, I was a bit terrified. Anything that comes at me in terms of an iPad or an eye in front of it or a computer, then I was always a bit like, oh, do we have to do this? So I like to say I was dragged kicking and screaming at first by much better educated business partners.
Could you explain what you adopted and how it changed your business?
Of course, yeah. We went in there with everything. We took on Vita's POS, Vita Mojo's POS system. We do click and collect through them, and most recently we now have all the delivery aggregators integrated into the till system, which has been absolutely revolutionary in itself. Having Just Eat, Deliveroo, and Uber Eats sitting there. Once upon a time, as a restaurant owner, you would have to have somebody answering the phone, taking orders, processing Uber Eats orders, and processing Just Eat orders. Whereas now, everything comes through the POS system onto our KDS screens in the kitchen, and that itself is totally revolutionary. In terms of what it's done for the business, it has easily cut 10% of staff labour. It has increased average ticket price by 30%. So once a convert, now a full-on promoter, as I'm sat here on the stage telling everybody all about it.
And I know that when you I did come up in 2019, and you very kindly met me, and we drove around and we had a look, and we were talking about putting kiosks in, and I think at that time, I don't know, 80% of your orders were via the phone or something crazy, and you told me it would never work.
Can you see the fear in my eyes back there? Yeah.
It never changed. So how did it work when you put the self-serve kiosks in? How did it work? How did it benefit the business?
The labour thing was the big one.
Yeah.
Like I said, managing the front of house of any takeaway business is a skill in itself. You know, you've got to have a serious amount of patience and a strong stress threshold to be able to manage that. Like Nick says, when he came up, I was like, no, we can't swap all that intenseness, all that stress, all those problems, and just put an iPad in front of the shop and everybody's going to queue up and use it. But yeah, that's what happened. We put it in. There was a few people who were older than me that questioned it at first, but you know, people worried that it would take customer service away. But in a sense, you know, you still got somebody on the front of the house, and if anything, that's adding to the customer journey is the digital order system. It's giving people the opportunity to customize everything to the T, and I think customers are often quite scared of interaction with front of house staff as well. So it works on both parts.
Yeah. And I was wondering whether you could talk a little bit about the work you did back of house, because I know that you put a lot of work into optimizing the back of house production to make it as efficient as possible. And I guess it's something that people really don't focus enough on, probably.
Absolutely.
And obviously one of the benefits of putting self-serve kiosks in is you can take more orders, but that's only a good thing if you can actually make the food. So
that's it.
Could you talk to some of the stuff that you did back of house just to make sure it was as efficient as possible?
Yeah, absolutely. So introducing the digital front of house system freed up a lot of labour to be able to concentrate more on producing the more orders that we were getting. Being a handcrafted kebab shop, you know, when things get stressful, when things get busy, and people are answering the telephones and processing the Just Eat orders and processing the delivery orders, it produces a lot of stress in the building. But just taking that entire part out of the situation, allowing 95% of your staff to concentrate on guaranteeing quality within the kitchen, making sure everything's correct, is a massive part of what's got us to where we're at today.
And did you have any pushback from the staff when you originally made all those changes?
Apart from me.
Apart from you.
Staff can be negative about everything, can't they? Whenever change is introduced, then there's always going to be backlash. But you know, all my staff these days are half my age, so they settled into it a lot better than I did, to the point where things were going wrong, and they were teaching me about the technology, and I think in a way that they helped cushion me through the transaction.
Okay.
That they were much more open-minded than I was. Yeah.
And do you have any, just before I come back to Rosie, do you have any tips on kind of mistakes you made along the way, things you wish you'd done differently? Is there anything that you can share?
As a business?
Oh, as a business, in terms of, anything that you did, tech adoption, anything, to help these lovely people.
I like to say I've made every mistake in the book twice. Often 3 times.
As a yes then.
So yeah, you know, I've tried, I've been through the circle of business, of trying to do things different ways, from operating through, you know, using our own drivers, to using what was Hungry House back in the day and thinking, oh, this isn't working, these guys are offering us a better percentage, and throughout time I've had to chop and change and try and squeeze the percentages through the P&L to try and find the perfect solution. But yeah, I've tried it all. To the point now where we've got all aggregators on board that we possibly can, and we're able to make money out of it through the integration.
Yeah. And so looking to the future then, what does the future hold for I Am Donna? I know that you're franchising and loads of exciting plans. So what
Absolutely,
does that look like?
Thank you. Yeah. So say I Am Donna. I've been at it for a long time. It's been a very long, hard, and stressful 7 years. But obviously the world's been through quite a lot of complex things in the last few years. But as the world starts to recover, we've started to put all our efforts into becoming a franchise. With obviously the Vita Mojo package as a part of that. We've just grown, taken on a very successful franchisee in Liverpool, And we've got 2 stores coming up in London, one in Windsor and one in Wembley within the next 3 months. If anybody's interested, then please do get in contact with us. That'd be great.
And how have you, because it's interesting you made that point around making the tech an integral part of your overall kind of the way that you deliver your food.
Yes.
And that's become a package for your franchisees. Is that something you're very strong about, you're going to stick with?
It's up there in our main selling points, you know. Compared to any of our competitors, our staff percentage is a good 3 or 4% lower, and that's because of the self-ordering, fully complete digital system that we're offering. And it's very unique and customized to us. It's a big part of it.
And do franchisees buy into that? Are they quite happy with that?
Absolutely, yeah. Once they see the percentages and the money that they can make, and then there's no arguing. Okay. Particularly the increased average ticket cost and the saving on labour. Okay. And any business owner cannot argue with that. I'm not sure if I'd still be here today without that. That's
good. Good, thank you.
Yeah.
So Rosie, the future. So you've done all this work to get Gales to where it is today with your various platforms. What does the future look like in terms of the Gales' digital transformation?
Great question. The overarching aim of Gales is, we talk about making the world a better place, a phrase that my marketing director will hate me for saying, she hates a pun. We've scaled a lot over the last couple of years. When I joined the business 18 months ago, we had about 65 sites, and we're now at 110. So that growth is going to continue. And we're really lucky that we've kind of bucked a lot of the industry trends in terms of our growth, and also that it's all self-funded. So we're in a really kind of strong position. So the future for us is around how do we continue to grow that impact? How do we help fix the broken food system? How do we use tech to help enable better education of people, more nutritious products? All of the kind of easily overlooked things that genuinely are about our contribution to the wider world as much as our P&L, you know. People talk about that concept of the triple bottom line around sort of people, product, planet, and we want to make sure that our digital capacity is enabling as much as possible across all 3 of those areas.
And what advice can you give people who haven't started their digital transformation? Because again, we sort of alluded to the fact that you put a lot of work in to get those stakeholders aligned, and you had your digital board with your board. So what advice do you have in retrospect to give to people?
I'd say take some time up front to think about where you want to go in 3 to 5 years, because a lot of what we did in the early years, we kind of picked partners that weren't scalable or that weren't kind of quite aligned to the needs that we had even then and there, let alone needs as they changed. So we tried to make sure that when it came to our digital partners, we picked people who were going to grow with us. And actually that's something Vita Mojo were great at, just in terms of like building flexibility into the systems and knowing that you could input into the roadmap and end up with a product that you were going to both be really genuinely proud of, and would solve problems for teams, would solve problems for customers. So yeah, pick your partners really wisely, I guess is my best bit of advice.
Okay. And just a quick point on on your teams, and we talked about it with Paul and I am Donna, and the way that the digital aggregation worked for all of the for the delivery platforms. When you see if you go into a Gales, it's loads of hustle and bustle. You walk in, you get served, and it's a great experience. You see all that lovely food. How do you start to introduce delivery platforms, digital platforms, and retain that sense of service within your shops?
I think the whole point of it, and much the same as Paul, it's about knowing that the tech is there to enable your people to be people. What you're trying to do is streamline all of your order processes, streamline your stock management, make sure that you're freeing up people to have that genuine human connection. So we're doing the Gales Quarterly Awards next week, and it's a celebration of all things digital. And for part of it, I wrote part of my speech using ChatGPT. And I asked it the question, why will robots never replace humans in the hospitality industry? And it sort of came up with this little spiel about, you know, human connection and empathy and all these soft skills that a robot can never help to contribute. And I was like, great, even the robots agree, you know. So yeah, I think just, making sure it's about removing those pain points, that's the most important thing.
Okay. And have you had much pushback from the staff?
In the early kind of months and years, early months certainly. And I think it's because they could only see one step ahead. So where we were trying to pick systems that would do what we were planning in 3 to 5 years, they didn't have visibility of that strategy. So at that point, I couldn't tell them we were going to layer on Just Eat because Deliveroo didn't know. So they had to kind of just get to grips with the fact that there was a reason behind this. So I think once they understood the logic and the use case, it then became much more comfortable. And as we then layered on same-day click and collect, again, you're just kind of building clarity amongst your team about what's the problem you're solving for them.
Okay. And how important is customer data to you guys?
So important. And it's such a gap for Gales. And it's hilarious because for everything else in the business, we have boatloads of data, like way too much. It's proper kind of analysis paralysis sometimes. But we've got this huge gap around what do our customers actually think and feel. We can see what they are doing, we can track their behavior, but we're in the process right now of selecting a partner for a kind of digital feedback module. So there's a lot of really exciting, more digital transformation coming in this space that I'm not allowed to talk about today. I'm on a strict embargo. But some really cool stuff that's going to fill that gap inside the next few months. So yeah, watch this space.
Okay. You'll actually fill the gap between what you think your customers are doing with what they're actually doing.
Exactly. And for me, that's step one, right? Because the second step is really the why. Why are they doing what they're doing? And the more you understand about your customers, the more able you are to meet their needs. And again, like really making it organic how you show up in their life and positive that you're showing up in their life. We're not into inveigling our way into people's lives. That you might never have seen a Gales advert because we don't really do that. We would rather just be in the right place at the right time for the right people, and that's what data gives us.
Okay. One more question before we take it to the floor. Just on brand, how do you protect your brand? I mean, Gales is such a strong brand. How do you protect your brand via either the aggregators or your own delivery channels, your own digital channels?
It's actually, honestly, really hard to do, particularly because Gales is a premium brand, and we operate in a kind of odd Venn diagram, right? Where you've got bakery, you've got coffee, you've got premium, and then you've got scale. And not a lot of people, well, in fact, no one else sits right in the middle of those four categories. So the positive of that is that we're unique, and isn't that lovely? But the downside is you end up with loads of competitors. So you have to be really clear about what is great about your brand. And it can be really hard to amplify stuff like quality on aggregators. You're in amongst kind of everyone and everything. What we do find, though, is that once people try our service, they come back. We have a great loyal customer base. So we've kind of really made sure that as we scale, the thing that's most important for us to hold on to is that quality piece.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that we're trying to dial up a bit more in our messaging. But I can't tell you honestly that we're very good at it yet. It's very much a learning curve.
Yeah. Okay, amazing. Actually, Paul, just one more question for you, just on that brand piece. Because I Am Donna's got a fantastic brand, very visual, very modern. How do you, given you're going down the franchise route, how are you going to protect that as you franchise?
Protect what we're doing to keep
your brand, the quality of your brand.
Keep it different from
even
anywhere
on the
else.
Food side, even on the food side, you made some very specific choices about the food you're going to use and how you're going to prepare. How are you going to protect that as you franchise?
So when I initially started out, it was all about going out and doing it ourselves. Trying to make a multi-site company ourselves, but with my chefing background and the quality that I need to see in the food, I found that really hard to do over multiple sites. Not everybody is always going to give a damn as much as I am. So when the idea of franchising came around, then other people investing in our vision, who actually give a damn about it as much as I do, was the ideal solution.
Okay.
And that's the quality points that we're looking for in future franchisees. People that really care and people that can take what I originally created and replicate that to the same standards.
Amazing. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Round of applause. Thank you very much. Now, you've all got lots of questions, I can tell. Feel free to share those questions.
Oh, the roaming mic.
I hope you're well. So you're a pro right now at your journey, right? You've already got established businesses, multiple sites. When was the hardest time for you, and what was the biggest mindset shift, if that makes sense?
I can tell you from a Gales perspective, we spent the last kind of 18 months or so navigating what I'm referring to as our angsty teenage years, where we're not a small business anymore, but we're not quite ready to be a big business. And that meant a really kind of long, hard look in the mirror and figuring out what parts of that incredible entrepreneurial mindset and those processes that really made great quality products could cope at scale. How do you retain like the best bits of your business and realize what are the bits around the edge that really aren't contributing? So it's been a real joy to watch that and be part of that journey, because I do think there aren't a lot of big businesses that are good businesses, which sounds really harsh, but that's kind of where I'm at. So yeah, I think we're really kind of still figuring that out, but I think we're very much on our way there.
Yeah, it's the early days, like they said over here. Taking everything you've ever got in your life, you know, in terms of selling your house and your car, picking up, moving home to a different city that you're not familiar with, investing everything you can have, including your financial future for the next 10 years is what you're doing, and putting it into an idea which was conducted through market research was the most terrifying thing I've ever done. And to properly nail that, to make sure that every day everybody was getting the best food they possibly can. My concept from day one was to have somebody open the bag and go, oh my God, this is incredible, yeah? So to install that in every single meal that we sent out from then until now was the hard and emotional and stressful thing. I tell the tale, but in those early days, 120 hours a week, 6 hours sleep a day, straight back to it, is what you've got to do. You've got to put your all into it, and eventually, if you put your all into it, then people will begin to see that. People will believe in it, and it does get easier. It's never stress free, but it gets easier if you give it your all. That's all I'll say.
Hello.
Hello. My question's to Rosie. So what we've listened to now is how you're using technology to transform your customer experience. But how are you using it to transform your, say, back office experience in terms of your geographical growth as a business?
Yeah, it's always the unsexy stuff, right, that no one ever thinks about. And that's been a place where tech's actually made a massive difference. So it used to be that when we were going to open a new location, we'd kind of have a look and see where there was a Waitrose. And then our CEO would get on his bike and he would cycle around that location 10 times and he'd say yes or no, I do or don't want to put a site there. Obviously, the rate of opening that we've been undergoing, that's not scalable. There's a real belief that there's a place for Gales in most neighborhoods. You know, what we are about is really, really good bread, and lots of people love really good bread, so we've got a lot of faith in the product. But we now look at, we have an algorithm that looks at demographic data, it looks at other bellwether brands aside from Waitrose. We just sort of try and scout out the area in person as well. So I sort of mentioned earlier, we recently had our first Manchester bakery. And there was a bit of a sense of hesitancy in advance around price sensitivity. Was there going to be a market for Gales? But actually, once you spend a few hours in Manchester, you realise that there are plenty of places where it's going to work. So use the tech, but I do think there is no substitute for going out and seeing what the competitor set is like and whether or not you feel there is a genuine gap and a space for your brand.
Is the Waitrose still essential?
Sorry?
Is the Waitrose still an essential part of you?
Not essential, but nice to have.
All right, well, thank you very much for coming and listening, and have a great day. Thank you.